Well, good evening, Pool Player Nation. I'm Jason Bowman. I'm the marketing director for APA. I'm joined by APA President Greg Fletcher and Bill Tufts, our director of tournament productions. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling a little deja vu. I feel like we've been here before. I don't know about this. This is the third. This would be the third update we've given you guys on our events since the pandemic began back in March. Obviously, early on, we were talking about our pool player championships, which were, ultimately moved to 2021. And then we were talking about at the time, the Showdown series event, and then our world championships. And there's been a lot of back and forth. And unfortunately, we're still dealing with this, guys. We're not through the woods just yet. Some positive things have been happening in the world of pool and APA and all things that we love. And that is that some leagues have been getting back up and going. Greg, I'll let you touch on this a little bit, but maybe you could just give us a quick update on kind of the landscape of, APA in general. A lot of folks are playing leagues, some aren't. They're wondering how many are and when they're coming back.
Yeah, it's hard to put your finger on it exactly just from watching the news. So we can definitely kind of unfold this a little bit for you. That we're roughly almost about 60% of our leagues are up and running right now, and there's another 40%, which you could probably cut those in half, but 40% are not playing. But that I think it was around 28% had started up, but then they had to shut back down as some of the states like Florida or Texas had to shut back down. And so, but around 60 or almost 60%, and we're expecting a few more leagues to come back online, hopefully this week in the state of Texas. And so that'll be good. But we're trying as hard as we can to support those local leagues and help them to operate safely and help players get back to playing pool.
Yeah, and I know we've been doing some, for the players that haven't been able to start playing yet, I know we've been doing some actual government advocacy, which is us reaching out to state governors and people in local county administrations and things, the people that are kind of putting the restrictions on our locations, which ultimately means we've got to postpone play. And, I think folks would have seen us roll out the Play Safe campaign, which a big part of that was to help this advocacy. So could you just maybe touch on what APA is doing in these markets where pool has not been allowed yet to try to get things moving?
Yeah, so it's really interesting, depending on who the leaders are, the municipality, the authorities, sometimes they draw some really strict conclusions like, all right, this is allowed, but this isn't, right? And in some of those situations, they flat out have been very specific to say that pool tables are not acceptable, right? That you can't open up a location, or if you open the location, maybe the pool tables don't get opened, which seems really ludicrous when they'll open a bowling alley, right? And so we're having to navigate all that, and we've been working really closely with a lot of the local facilities operators, as well as the local officials, and even on up to the governors. In fact, we recently just sent a letter to Governor Cuomo in New York, trying to help him understand that we can operate safely, and we're doing our best to try to do that. So we're going to bat, as an organization to try to help pool come back alive, and so that our players can enjoy it, because, we need this. Society needs the ability to get together safely and enjoy pool. And we're also expecting there to be a few other initiatives. I think Arizona, we're getting ready to work with Arizona and a few other states. So we're working hard at that, and we're doing a really good job. In fact, we even have a letter back from the governor of Nebraska where it actually made a difference in his policy. And so we'll probably frame that one where we were actually able to make a dent in the world of politics.
Yeah. So for those of you that have yet to return to league play, don't lose hope. It can change very quickly. We just learned, I think yesterday, that some rules in Texas, which have kind of limited things, have changed, and it seems like more teams are going to get back to play. So it can happen very quickly. Your league operator and APA is planning to allow that to happen quickly when it does happen. So just don't lose hope, right? It's hope is a powerful thing. We want to hold on to hope, and we're doing what we can to try to affect change as best we can.
Yes,
I think the takeaway there for you guys that are playing, if you're following the play safe rules, regardless of what you think about masks or not wearing masks, you're helping not only yourself stay playing, but you're also helping the overall cause. And what we're trying to show the country is pool can be played safely in the COVID pandemic, right? That's what it boils down to. And, the pool table's a natural barrier, pool cues are natural barriers. So we want to show that we can do it better than what's being done and hopefully avoid, if you've not been in a market where you've had to start back up and then shut down, it's heartbreaking, right? Yeah. These folks have waited so long and they get going and they're excited. And then 2 weeks later, it gets shut down again. So we need to do what we can to keep play going for our host locations. Host locations have been hammered in this pandemic. So whatever we can do to keep just let us play. That's all we want. Please let us play.
And that really is the message. Regardless of where you stand with politics or what you believe about masks or this virus or anything like that, we're just trying to do the best that we can so that our people can get together, right? And so, if wearing a mask and social distancing and washing your hands and doing a few of these things that we've outlined, there's small prices to pay in order to be able to get out and see people, right? See real people's faces, not just here on screen, and enjoy that game, man, and enjoy playing. And is it as good as if this thing had never happened? No, but gosh, it's better than nothing. Let's all remember what it was like back in March, man, when we're all just like, what are we doing? We're all stuck at home and we can't do anything. So we're asking, we're pleading, we're begging you, play safe, and so that we can all continue to play until we get the good news that this virus has been solved.
Yeah, we want to make sure we can keep all of you guys healthy. That's what's most important. And the way we do that is by being as cautious as we can. Does that mean we can eliminate all risk? Of course not. And I think we're all learning that in this world right now. But, there are things we can do to limit our risk. And we want that for the health of all of our members. So we've talked a little bit about leagues. Greg says about 60% back, 40% still waiting to play. I know in the areas we've come back, Greg, we've seen some things like curfew restrictions. We've seen gathering limitations on terms of size, which has been a challenge. But those things become even more challenging, I think, when you start trying to plan big tournaments like world qualifiers, the tournaments that send the teams from an area to Vegas. Maybe just talk a little bit about some of the local restrictions and how that's hindered things.
Well, yeah, and then a lot of people they may or may not realize, some realize that it takes us all year long to kind of build up the player base in order to be able to send people out to a national event, and the local restrictions have definitely put a hamper on all of it. I think we're up to 80% of our league areas are under some kind of mask mandate, right? And so it's a lot of adjustment for people. And we're real happy to see that people are trying to do that. And I would mention that if you take pictures at league night, especially of people who are playing safe and wearing masks, and tag it, play safe. We want to see that stuff. We want to see you guys trying to do that because it gives everybody a shot in the arm, right? That we can do this and we can overcome those local restrictions. I know that and they change so often. I know, like at first, the curfew was like 11 o'clock. And then now suddenly, I think here in St. Louis, they've moved it back to 10 o'clock. And so last call is like 9:30, right? So, what I've heard is that people are just buying up more drinks and then drinking them faster. So I don't know if that actually solves the problem. Or if it just pushes it further into the earlier into the evening.
Hey, it's what I do when I hear last call. I just order it. So I'll be honest there. I can sympathize there.
Yeah,
I understand what's going on.
And when we've had a long-standing commitment to trying to get teams home before 11. So we get it. So we're doing our best to try to work with this. And that's really what we're asking everyone to do is work with us. Try to just be creative. Let's solve problems and let's make sure that we all get to be together.
Yeah. So with a little bit of what's going on the league level. What about Las Vegas? What's Vegas looking like right now? Is Vegas open? Are they allowing people? What's the story?
Well, most of the businesses, the bars and locations are all shut down. The casinos are open. Well, I'm sure that the casinos have a lot more pull than the individual bar there, but there's still the limit of no gatherings of more than 50 people. And we've heard from some of our contacts there at the Westgate Hotel that there's a rumor that they're getting ready to cut it back to 25. So they're going in the opposite direction than we need them to go. And so I can only imagine what they're having to deal with, because Vegas, it all revolves around people being able to get out and have a good time. And so they're having a pretty rough time.
All right, so there's some key things that I've gathered from what Greg has had to say. Number one is that about 60% of leagues are back, 40% are not. There are restrictions on the local league level in terms of limiting size of people coming together, curfews in some cases, and now we've talked a little bit about Las Vegas and the fact that they are not currently allowing gatherings that would accommodate a tournament like ours. We could just throw in the fact that border restrictions are still out there for people between the United States and Canada. I don't know what's going on, if we still have restrictions with Japan or not. I'm guessing probably so. But all these things are adding up to our main talking point and what people want to know, which is what's happening with the World Championships in late November, early December. And I'll shift it over and I'll let Bill take that question about what's the haps, Bill.
Sure. So when we initially rolled out that we were going to move the event from August to December, we said we were doing that to buy ourselves some time. Hopefully COVID would diminish, treatments would get better. In a miracle world, I guess a vaccine would have happened by now, and that we'd all be back to playing normal. And as you guys have perfectly illustrated, we're just not back. So we really had kind of a date to look at, and that date range was somewhere between September and October. We would really know if this thing was going to be possible. We would see positive steps in Nevada on allowing groups of our size. We'd see more of our leagues open up and be able to host their world qualifiers. Maybe aside from Nevada, the most important aspect of us holding the championships. Unfortunately, we just haven't got there. So in a realistic picture of looking at December, we recognize December is not going to happen for the Whirlpool Championships. Now, a couple of things have changed since we made the initial, or since we last sat together and talked about December. One, our leagues haven't come back online, and while that's bad news overall, we want everybody to be playing. It does mean that whenever we get to 2021, we're just not going to qualify as many teams out of the 2021 league year as we normally would have. So when we sat in the chat and we told people, look, we can't double the size of WPC. So if we have to do something with December, there may not be an event to move people to. That was all based on we wouldn't be able to double the size of the event. What I can say is we've done some analysis on our numbers, on who's currently running, on hopeful projections of what will happen, best case scenario, going into 2021. And we realize that since we're going to be down some in the 2021 league year, being down actually helps us in regard of doing something with the December qualified teams, players, slots. What we identified is that we can take the whole of the 2020 WPC, meaning every slot that's out there for the 8-ball teams, every slot that's out there for the 9-ball teams, regardless of whether or not they've had their world qualifier or they have yet to run their world qualifier. We can take everybody and move them to 2021 and add it to whatever numbers we actually get in 2021. So that's our plan. And then when it comes to the Showdown series, folks, I'm talking to you, Masters players, ladies players, Jack and Jill players, and our team captains. Anybody that's currently in divisions that's promised a slot, maybe hasn't had that qualifier yet, you're going to get your chance to play in that qualifier. When you win that qualifier, you're going to go to 2021. If you've already had a qualifier, you've already ran it, you were one of the lucky leagues, got back up and going, you've had the tournament, or let's say the tournament's going to happen in the next few days. When you win that tournament, or if you've won that tournament, you're going to 2021. If you have not played in your world qualifier for your 8-ball or 9-ball yet, when you do play in that qualifier, whether that's the next couple weeks or your league shut down and it's not coming back online for another couple months, we don't really know. When you win that qualifier, you're going to the 2021 event. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine the two. It's a very similar plan to what we were able to do with our pool player championships. We're going to do the same thing with our Whirlpool championships. We are going to honor the commitment we have to our teams and players and give them their place to play and their chance at a championship. And I'm proud to say that when we do this, if we are allowed to do this, this will be the biggest, baddest tournament that's ever happened in pool, bar none. I mean, we're talking massive, but we're able to do it within virtually the same time frame as before. We will have to add a couple days to the event, but that won't impact most players. Won't even notice that. They'll still be out there for the same amount of time they would have normally been out at the championship. So that's the plan, to give everybody their championship. It's just going to be later than any of us had hoped.
All right, so let's unwind that a little bit, because that's a lot of information right there. So what Bill has just told us, and I'll let him verify it as I say it to make sure I heard it the right way. I think I heard it the right way. Is the December event, which was originally in August, which was pushed to December, is not going to happen in December. Not happening. No. Vegas won't allow it. Too many teams will not be able to qualify by then to be there. So the good news, so that's bad news in a certain respect. There's not going to be an event in 2020. The very good news, and the news that we didn't think possible when we first moved this, is that everyone that is qualified for a 2020 event, or will qualify in the weeks and maybe even months ahead, will end up getting to play in Vegas in 2021. So you're just going to have to wait a little longer. And I can remember back to April when we told the pool player championship people that, hey, it's not going to happen this year, but we're going to bring you next year. Some of them were like, they couldn't fathom it was so far out. But now I'm looking at April like, man, I hope we can make April work. So, you know what I mean? It's like, this is a good thing, and it means you're going to get to play. It adds some time. So that's the silver lining here. And the reason that it's possible, if I understood it correctly, Bill, is that in a lot of the markets where we've not yet come back, they maybe missed their summer session, or they might even miss their fall session. So in some leagues, they may only have a spring session, which is basically 1/3 of the league year. And so they most likely will not send as many teams in 2021 to the championship as they would in 2020 or in 2022. Correct. So that means that we can absorb all of them. Now, I think you told me earlier that it's a 1,536 team bracket that looks right now, your projection is somewhere between 1,200 and 1,300 teams in 8-ball. So to give people some perspective, that's about what, 500 or 600 more than normal?
It is, about 500, 600 more than normal. So it's about 2/3 over what a normal year would be. And that's just 8-ball. The 8-ball is a 1,536 team bracket. We expect to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,200 teams. That's our current projection.
That's 8-ball only. That's just 8-ball.
That's just 8-ball.
And normally that'd be like 700 teams in that event, right? 700 to 800 teams in that event.
We would have early 700s in that event. Now 9-ball's another animal. 9-ball jumps from what was traditionally a 512 team bracket to 1,024 team bracket. And we'll put on that bracket right now with projections in the neighborhood of 800 to 900 teams into that bracket. So both of the events much, much larger than they originally were. But by spacing out our schedule by a couple days, right, adjusting some of our times, really evaluating the brackets, making sure we're using the ones that work the best and most efficient for this event, we're able to do all this in a very comfortable way. I mean, right now, as the schedule sits, which again, I would say is our best case, meaning we had as many teams come back as we could have hoped for. We're doing the best we can. We're looking at a schedule that has like only one 11 p.m. round, for 9-ball, which for anybody out there that's watching this that remembers our tournaments for years, we used to have 4 rounds a day, 8, 1, 6, and 11 every single year. And that was on much smaller brackets. We've been able to lean these things down, get more efficient. So most days for our 8-ball and 9-ball participants, we're talking 3 rounds a day, 9 to 7, somewhere in that space. So while we be adding a lot more teams to the event, our goal is to still make this event fun, and to be fun, it has to be comfortable. And to be comfortable means you got to have a schedule that accommodates and it's nice. And we're not out there just trying to jam people in and really kind of run them through the gamut, make it more of a marathon than it needs to be. So we're really focused on that. We do have some dialing in to do. I know there are going to be people that are like, what are the specific dates? We're currently tailoring those dates. We're currently tailoring those times. So while we know we fit and we know we fit comfortably, we're going to continue to work on that schedule based on the information we get in from our leagues to make sure that schedule and that timeline is as efficient and as fun as possible.
Nice. And so what about Showdown Series events? And for those that are like, what's a Showdown Series event? Showdown Series is going to be Masters, Ladies 8-Ball, Jack and Jill, Team Captains Championship. These events that happen, they're not technically within the World Championship program, but they are certainly large events that take place at the World Championships. So if I'm understanding you right, everybody that has already qualified for one of those events, or maybe qualifying here very soon, they will also advance to next year, where again, it sounded like initially, if you go back several months and watch our videos then, it sounded like there was no chance of that. And so now that we've figured out some type of formula that's going to allow pretty much everybody to move forward.
Correct. Actually, with two of the larger events, at least popularity-wise, the ladies, the Masters, in which we have tons of division play, highly popular events, we're actually able to increase those bracket sizes by about a third. So instead of a 256 for those 256 teams on a bracket, we're going to increase those brackets to 384 to allow not just for all of our players this year that got qualified, all the slots that are out there that still have yet to qualify, but also, of course, adding to it with the 2021 qualifiers, right, in those divisions from those leagues. So we're really hopeful we'll be able to accommodate everybody there. When it comes to Jack and Jill, we have far less divisions of Jack and Jill, meaning division play. And I think people do get confused about this. And what's the difference between a Showdown series and a 8-ball or 9-ball team? Showdown series, leagues have the option of running division play, meaning weekly play in that format, or they can host a tournament, right? Or something to that effect to qualify a team for the event. The divisions have benefits for the leagues and for the players. They build up players' fun. But some leagues don't have the table time during the week or whatever else to dedicate to Masters. Or they don't have enough players. Same with ladies. So they dedicate it to the 8-ball, 9-ball, but they're gonna get a slot and they're gonna run a tournament for it. We do treat those two situations different. If a league's running divisions, they get priority because those people are playing every week. They're promised a slot at the end. Tournaments come secondary in that. In this plan, that'll work the same. If your league is a league that traditionally runs divisions, right, we're going to honor the divisions first and try to take care of those to make sure that if you're playing in a Masters division, there's a Masters slot for you. After we get through those leagues, then we get to the tournament type of slots, right? And we filter those down through, and it's a wait list. I don't want to get into the weeds with all the players, but we do have a process in place. We're going to follow that process. When we get to Jack and Jill, there are far less divisions. I believe there's only 20-something leagues around the country and Canada that actually run Jack and Jill divisions. We can easily accommodate that division play. So there should still be plenty of slots left over for a lot of leagues to be able to send a Jack and Jill team. Team captains is a completely different animal. Team captains has no division play. We're forming these teams out of captains that are captaining other teams, and we're bringing them together. So when it comes to that, we're going to run a 256 bracket, which is smaller than we normally did, but it helps accommodate the rest. But we still feel that the demand between 2020 and 2021 will fill that bracket, but I don't believe we'll go much over that bracket just because of the nature of team captains. To give you guys an idea, we have far more qualified teams right now for Masters and Ladies and Jack and Jill than we do for team captains events, because honestly, it's the newest one on our slate. It's the one leagues are still getting adapted to. So it does buy us a little bit of a window with that one. So that's probably the most significant change, is the reduction in that particular bracket size. But we believe that the increase of masters and ladies and keeping Jack and Jill the same size was very important to this process. And of course, all of those help set up the two largest open brackets we've ever had.
So I'm sure there's probably some people wondering about how does it impact prize money if you've got two different years coming together in one tournament. I assume, I'm guessing you probably don't have all the answers because you don't know how many teams have come from next year, but certainly I'm expecting that the prize money is going to increase in some way, right? Because the event overall gets bigger.
As the event gets bigger, because we give out last place prize money, which is also called qualifier money. So every team that shows up gets paid out right on the spot, right? Mm-hmm. So if we increase the field size at all, our payout automatically goes up. So the one thing I can absolutely say is that in the 8-ball and 9-ball events and masters and ladies, these will be the highest payouts they've ever had. Now, most people want to know, are we going to increase the top end payout, right? I've said this before on streams that our goal as APA has been to give as many people the best experience as possible. And we didn't necessarily see that one team getting all the money was the best way to go. I will say that we are evaluating options just in payout distribution all the way across the board. So I won't take off the table for that event the potential of an increase for top end prize money, but I'm not going to say it's far from a guarantee as well. We really do have to see what those 2021 numbers look like, what do our bracket sizes look like, and then make the best decision for our network on literally the most bang for our buck.
Right. Yeah, I think it's important to say that, and I want everyone to know that we're doing our best to traverse these times, this virus scenario and how it affects the whole world is changing daily, as you know. If you're keeping track or trying to keep track of the details of what's going on, it changes all the time. We wake up in the morning and we open the news and it's like, whoa, a bunch of stuff happened overnight. So, just know that we're trying to pivot and we're trying to do the very best that we can to deliver the usual experience that we do and then some, right? Because we believe in doing the very best and being the best in the marketplace. So we just ask that you be patient with us. There are going to be a lot of details that we're going to have to gather and figure out and release over time. But we wanted to come out now and kind of make this announcement about the WPC because we know that it directly affects quite a few people right now. And so that's why we're trying to come out with it, even though we don't have all the information. So I just want to be clear.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point. I mean, we've got leagues right now, players and league operators that are stressing and they're contacting us daily wanting to know about December because they got to make plans and they recognize that their league's not up and running, and they're honestly, man, they're legitimately freaking out for very, very good reason. I mean, anybody that's been watching would recognize that, this thing's in jeopardy. What's going to happen with it? And by coming out and making this announcement now, we allow that pressure to ease and let everybody know you're going to have time to qualify for the event. You're going to have time to get your stuff in because this event, we're going to move it, right? And I think that is paramount. And you bring up a heck of a point that the details, while we've got a ton of them hammered out, there's still stuff we're discovering because every league is different. Every team is different. Everything on the ground is different. So we're gathering that feedback, not just from our league operator base, but also from our player base. And then we're using that to factor in decisions that work the best for as many people in this organization as possible. Our goal here is to keep it going, man, and to keep everybody playing, keep everybody happy, and do the best we can with imperfect situations. So we're gonna keep trying.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we said early on in this, and I've heard it come up in our internal meetings over and over, is that it seems like the number one goal here is to honor the commitments and the achievements of our members. Winning your spot in our event is bigger than whatever the travel assistance money or whatever you get is. it's getting the experience that you fought so hard for. And so I think that has really been at the heart of so many of our decisions, because I know personally there's been times I'm like, why don't we just cancel this and move on? It'd be a lot simpler just to say it's off the books and we can start worrying about something else. But through all this, it's like, you can't just leave the people behind that have earned so much. And so I think what you're seeing here is, and I'm sure there's people out there that are just crushed by this, the fact that they're not going to Vegas in December. But what you need to understand is Vegas isn't open in that way. Vegas is not allowing that. We talk a lot about the leagues that haven't been able to come back. That's one factor in this. The biggest factor is Vegas isn't allowing it right now, and you can only wait so long to make this call. So, again, I think we're doing what's in the best interest of our players that have achieved something and are going to achieve something in the days or weeks ahead whenever they have their world qualifier, and that's at the heart of what we've done. And if I understand it correctly, it's going to lead to, I guess, we've got the world's largest pool tournament. What else can happen? Like, it just becomes the world's more largest pool tournament. I mean, how's that work? It's just going to be like twice as big as the largest one ever. So I don't know what we'll call it.
Both of these brackets beat our original world record back in 2010. So, I mean, you're looking around and you're thinking the world's largest, man, we're hoping we can do it. I mean, that's our goal. When I first started here at APA, I was told, we deliver on our promise, and our promise to our leagues for competing is that showcase event. It's not about just money. It's about an experience you cannot get anywhere else. And for a lot of players that have been out a lot of times, maybe took it for granted. Maybe you took it for granted that experience. And now that it's been taken away, I hope that you're excited to get back out there and see it again and do it again. And for anybody that's never been out there, you can't replace that. You can't replace that with local payouts. You have to see it and experience it and be a part of it. That's our promise to our players. That's the promise we're trying to keep.
All right, so we've talked about the World Championships. Again, just to recap, we're pushing it forward again to August of 2021. It's going to give us time to finish out leagues that haven't restarted yet. It'll give them time to hold their world qualifiers, to appropriately send people, and ultimately we're going to honor the commitment to everybody who's qualified for that event, and eventually you are going to get to play in Vegas. It's just, we've got to ride the wave of this pandemic, and hopefully we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know. I don't want to even guess there, but just hopefully, just pray, right?
Yeah.
So that's not the only event, though, that we got to talk about, guys. We've also got an event that was actually slated to happen a little less than a month before the World Championships. Smaller event, more, but high level play. The U.S. Amateur Championship was scheduled for early November in Tampa. And probably a bigger deal is the fact that preliminary rounds are scheduled to kick off here in about 3 weeks in some markets. So, Bill, if you could just kind of fill us in on what's going on the U.S. Amateur Championship front.
Sure. Well, unfortunately, very similar to the discussion about our world qualifiers. We're not seeing the participation in the USAM that we traditionally have. Signups have been pretty strong. Everything considered, our player base, our players, they want to compete in this thing. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of preliminaries where it can't happen due to local ordinances. And actually, whenever I say a lot, I mean over half will not be able to host an event in September. So we had a choice to make. And, I think it was a fairly easy choice for us when we really looked at the picture. We sat down in a room and we said, look, Tampa, that's where we hold the event. This is one of our smaller events for anybody not familiar with the USAM. We have a women's U.S. Amateur Championship, happens right before the men. The women, we typically have about 40 women in it. And we have about 128 men, or I should say open players, that compete over the weekend. So from a manageability scale in Florida, it looked like it could be potentially doable, right? But then we look at the prelim situation. The prelim's less than half of them. So that means that of all the players that want to compete in this event, of all the players that have a legitimate shot at calling themselves the best U.S. amateur pool player in the world, we would just be telling them, because we couldn't host your prelim, you don't get to be a part of this. And for us, that just wasn't a palatable situation. This one's the cream's supposed to rise to the top, right? In this event. How can you say that if over half the people that want to compete aren't able to? So we really started to look at November and say, let's look for a solution. So I am very happy to announce that we have found a solution. What we are going to do is we are going to postpone our U.S. Amateur Championship, which isn't the happy part. The happy part is that we've actually found the time to postpone it to March of next year. We are going to continue to hold prelims this month for everybody that wants to compete. And I think that's important, very important, because one, we see high enthusiasm from the players. They want to play in this thing. Two, our host locations need this, right? I mean, they need this business. We've got league operators that are enthusiastic about it. Even the ones that couldn't run this month were enthusiastic about it. So we're going to do something for them and for all the players that can't compete this month. We are going to not only run our prelims this month, but we are going to institute a second window for the USAM. And for any area that's not able to run in September, we are going to attempt to reschedule for November over the now vacated USAM championship dates. We hope all you high-level players planned on being in Tampa anyway and had your schedule all clear. So going to your prelim a little bit closer home hopefully won't be too hard for you. And we're going to try to get that full participation to qualify everybody for next March. Now, we realize that we could see more areas drop out in September due to ordinances, restrictions changing, changes all the time, as Greg said. We also realize November is not a given for some of these markets. So we are keeping open the possibility that we may push some prelim locations into the first quarter of 2021 to get those players as much opportunity as possible to participate in the program. The one other exciting thing that we are going to do for the first time is anybody that's eliminated from a preliminary, let's say you play September, you're eliminated in your local preliminary. After those preliminaries run, we're going to open up the windows for November and those locations. Should you want to try your hand at it again, you'll be welcome to sign up for one of those prelims and sign up into that. And should we do another set of tournaments in January, the exact same thing. So we're going to give players more opportunities to try to qualify for this event until we reach that sweet spot of 128 in the open and somewhere in that 40 to 50 range for the ladies, hopefully higher. Hopefully participation forces us to go a little bit higher in the ladies. So that's the goal. That's the plan.
All right. So the U.S. Amateur Championship moves from November to March. I think it's mid-March, yes, around the 17th or somewhere thereabouts. We had some dates pop up there, 17th through the 21st, I believe. So in the areas where preliminaries, which are scheduled for September, can happen, we're kind of buttoning those up now to make sure they can still happen. But so players that are signed up for those that still want to play in September, where the preliminaries can happen, you're going to get to play. And what Bill's saying is, come November, when USAM was scheduled to happen, if your area has not been able to host preliminaries yet, maybe you're not able to have locations open or whatever it is, we're targeting that window in November for this second wave of preliminaries to be able to be held. And so what he said is, if you didn't make it at your preliminary that you went to in September, you might have to drive a little bit, but maybe you go to another one and play if you want, right? So Bill, I was going to ask you, hold on. I was going to ask you, does that mean, because I know that the entry window closed a while back, does that mean the entry window will reopen at some point for people to sign up for November?
Yeah, we're currently going through that process of figuring out the best way to open up and the best timing for opening up the entry window. But yes, we will reopen entry windows probably prior to, post preliminary. So preliminaries ran third week of September. We try to reopen the window sometime shortly thereafter for the next set of preliminaries. So that allows anybody that just got eliminated, or really anybody new, to sign up for the next set of locations. I will say, if your preliminary happens to be one that we can't run in September, you're automatically moved forward into the newly scheduled November dates for your preliminary. So you don't have to worry about anything. Now, we realize anytime you have a schedule change, date change, it may not jive with some people, right? They may not work with their schedule. They may have other things. If you guys have any issues with your current preliminary, future preliminary, anything like that, please, please, please feel free to reach out to us. We're going to be as accommodating as we can be with the juggling of this and making sure that you get the best experience possible through these USAM prelims.
I mean, I think, obviously the delay is never great news, but probably more expected news. But I love that people that are ready to play in September and in areas where they can play, they're gonna get their tournament feel, right? It's been a while since a lot of people have been able to play in tournaments, so that'll be a welcome sight for some of them, and the rest hopefully come November. And I think if I heard you right, Bill, even if by November you're in a market where there was supposed to be a preliminary but maybe still hasn't opened up yet, you're saying maybe even a third one in like the winter, like January after the first of the year.
Sure. That's where we're looking. So we want to make sure, one, that it's necessary to do. If we've got our full field coming out in September and November, right, we're set to go. We don't need to run. If we're still lagging, we still feel like a lot of people didn't get the experience that they were hoping, we still need to fill the board, then that's whenever we're going to look at, that January, early February timeframe. We want to make sure that we run it at a time that allows players the opportunity to save up a little money for travel should they make it down to Tampa. So that is the goal with this. We're really trying. I think it's important, again, to note that this is an experience. The USAM's an experience, seeing that field, and it's very important to our players to be able to be a part of that. We see that year in, year out. But not to be understated is taking that big dog in your region. I mean, being that guy that wins or that girl that wins in your region as the best of the best from that in the U.S. amateur format. And that's what our players in September and November are still going to have, right? They're going to get that opportunity.
Yeah, and I mean, we've focused a lot on the preliminaries when we talk about the U.S. Amateur Championship, but I got to imagine a lot of these players, if they were to know that only half of the country could play in a prelim, is it really the U.S. Amateur Championship when you get to Tampa if you're playing against only like half the best players? It just doesn't seem like the event integrity is maybe right, or I'm not saying that right, but you see what I'm getting at.
I think you're absolutely. I mean, who wants to play in a diminished field? Like the best want to beat the best, right? They want to see the former champions in that room. They want to take down that guy. If half those guys aren't there, either bracket, and I keep saying guys, but the women or men, if they're not there, then it's not the same. It's not the same championship. So we're going to do our best. We're going to try to get everybody there, and we're going to try to have a heck of a tournament down in Tampa.
Nice. So, well, I mean, it sounds like we're kind of back to bought some time, bought some options for people, and again, it all comes down to trying to get everybody in. It's not ideal for us. It's not ideal for our members and for our league operators. I think we all recognize that, but we're doing what we can. And again, at the heart of all of it is making sure you guys get what you achieved. And I think that's what's driving us at least right now. And we're going to keep fighting that fight for you as long as we can. Let's just hope come April we can get back to normal, because, man, it's wearing us out. It's wearing us out. So
I agree.
Anything else you guys want to add before we send people on their evenings? Again, I know there'll be lots of questions, and we'll try to answer the questions that come up in the chat. I imagine some of you guys are going to have questions that are going to apply, on the local level that you want to talk to your league operator about, questions we probably can't specifically answer because they're very custom to whatever happens with your area locally. But that's the plan, and until we need another plan, we're going to stick to that one.
Yeah, I would like to say I just want to encourage the players to be good to each other. We're all going through a lot right now. Be patient with each other. Go out of your way to help each other. Be there for each other. Support each other, especially the people you don't know, right? If you're coming up and you're playing, if you're fortunate enough to be playing right now and you're meeting new people, be good to each other. Be patient with them. Build that community. Our community's taking a hit. Our community's taking a real hit, and so it's up to us to rebuild that community, that special community the APA has. And so I just want to charge you with that. Build that community, build those relationships, build trust, be patient, and we will see the other side of this. I know it.
I like that. Pool Player Nation is strong. We're going to stay strong together. So don't forget it, folks. We appreciate you tuning in. stay positive, stay hopeful, and be well. And we will, well, frankly, hopefully we won't have another one of these discussions about event changes. And,
I hope not.
and we'll just
Last
do an
one.
event preview. Yeah, let's all hope. So
This is the last one.
I don't want to say it till next time, but hopefully next time we're talking about something much better. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a great evening, and
Thanks, guys.
see you soon.